Good evening, everybody. Thanks for having us. We're going to have a little more celebration fatigue. I know my hands are sort of getting sore from all the clapping. And it's so good to see just students thriving in all aspects of what we do here at Hunterdon Central. And so we're going to highlight a little bit more of that with the work of the science department. And I was thinking about the last time I was invited to come and talk about our work, which seemed like it wasn't that long ago, but it was last January, actually, so almost a year ago. And we started by really talking about what our goals were. And our goals, of course, trickle and cascade down from the board's goals. And they have to do with the well-being of all of our students, equity and inclusivity, and what that begins to look like in science learning environments. So our goals have been maintaining equitable and inclusive classroom environments. We've been working to find opportunities to personalize students' learning experience and help them to better identify with the science that's being learned, making sure that it's relevant and meaningful to them in their own lives, and also looking for opportunities to increase representation and cultural relevance across the curriculum. So what that looks like in science classrooms is we've been working hard to use phenomena, natural phenomena that are locally, culturally, and personally relevant to students to drive sense-making around science experiences and science concepts. We've been paying closer attention to making sure that every student can visualize themselves in the role of a scientist, that's an opportunity, that's a career path that's open to everyone, not just, people in lab coats that they see on TV that may or may not be like them. And making sure that the experiences that students are having in the classroom are allowing them to apply scientific knowledge and concepts in ways that are consequential to their own lives. And so what I thought we would do tonight is sort of highlight some of the outstanding work that has been happening in our science classrooms in the form of some specific lessons that teachers have been putting together, so exemplary lessons, and then the outstanding work of students themselves when engaging in those lessons. So I've invited some of our teachers and students to come and showcase that. So we're going to start with chemistry, and I'm going to turn it over here to Carla Heller.
Okay. Thanks for having us here tonight. This is always a great opportunity to showcase our students' work. One of the questions that we always get asked as teachers is, why do we have to learn this? Right? Why do we have to learn this? Why is this important to me? And initially in my early years of teaching, I just thought this was like some sort of sarcastic teenage comment, and a demand for something. And then I began to realize the older I got and the more involved I got in my teaching practice, that I was like, no, that's really actually a valid concern that they have. They're actually speaking true, and I need to listen to what they're saying to me. And so every year I sit down and I think about how I can make science relevant to my students. And this year I sat down with Bonnie Jager. She was my in-class support co-teacher. And we sat down at the beginning of the year and we thought, okay, how can we, get students a bit excited about chemistry, right? And one of the things we came up with together was a lesson on chemistry. In our first unit, we talk about metric conversions and branches of chemistry and structure. And so we took them to Dunkin' Donuts. And we walked over, we did a field trip. Our principal graciously allowed us to take field trips, right? And so we did that. And it was awesome. We took a walk out of the classroom and we sat down and we had a snack together. But if you look at the screen, we also did some chemistry while we were there and learned some science. And we saw how we could make that relevant to our own lives, something that they do every day. So that was one thing. And then the next time we sat down together, this was a collaboration with myself and Bonnie Jager and our media specialists, Jessica Amelie and Emily Ford. And while, the idea was something that I came up with, and having students relate a scientist to their own lives and their own cultural background, I really didn't know where to go with it from there. And I even sat down with Dr. Hall and said the same thing. And I was like, how do I structure this? This is what I want to do. How do I make this happen? And so it was a very collaborative effort. We all came up with this together. And we decided that we would have our students choose a scientist to research from their cultural background, and that they also had to bring in a show and tell item from their cultural background to share with our class. And so I have a couple of things here to show you. This was from the IMC, our media specialists, Jess and Emily. They helped put together a jumping off point for our students. So when we went to the IMC, they had a place to start and to start looking for something. And so they put together a project guide for us, which was awesome and amazing, and the students really found it useful. And I did bring a student with me today. So I brought Matt. You can come on up. You can talk about your experience a little bit. There you go.
All right, so the scientist I did was Joseph Priestley, and he basically discovered carbon dioxide alongside Benjamin Franklin. And basically the connection I made with me was that he was a preacher in England, and I'm also a very religious person. I also brought a prayer book, and he was a preacher in 1766, and the book is also very old. If I can check it. It was from my, great-great-great-great-grandfather. Can't find the date, but it's somewhere in the 1800s. But yeah, that was basically my connection with it. And yeah, it was just, that was my connection.
Thanks, Matt. Appreciate you stopping by tonight. It's great. Thank you. So another one of our students, she couldn't be here today, Samantha. She's actually in Mexico. She was going to see some family, and she wasn't able to make it tonight. But she put together a great project about a scientist that she made a connection to. She talked about her quinceañera, and she brought in some photos of her celebration. And so we all learned a little bit more about her as well through this project. And I think, was that the end of my slides here, I believe? Yes, that's it for me. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. Sure.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Cheryl Shawn, and I'm one of the biology teachers here. And what we did in our class this year, about a year ago, I applied to be part of a research program, which you all generously approved for me. And over the summer, I did some professional development, and it's with a program called Planting Science. So on the screen behind you is the goals of Planting Science. So Planting Science, it's a collaboration with students, teachers, and scientists. It was a partnership founded in 2005. And their goal is to facilitate relationships with students and science mentors. And we were able to do this through online asynchronous conversation. And so in our class, students were teamed up and they were assigned a scientist mentor that they collaborated with throughout this part of our curriculum, throughout this module. The research project, that I was a part of, and therefore my students were a part of, was called Planting Science, Digging Deeper F2. And so it's actually a second year of this research project. And it was funded by the National Science Foundation. It was a collaboration with the Botanical Society of America, BSCS Science Learning, and University of Colorado, Colorado Springs. And what their goal was to, they developed a module of curriculum for us to follow. And included in this was not only some guided inquiry activities, but also an open inquiry activities for the students to do and the collaboration with the science mentor. Okay. This was the second year of the research, so they found in the first year that it was successful, that this curriculum helped improve student understanding, and we were studying photosynthesis and respiration, and it was successful, and this year they're trying to recreate and replicate the results of that. Okay. So the module that we used was called Power of Sunlight. And there's 5 lessons included in it. And instead of including a lot of lecture, it was more guided inquiry and investigation, where students did experiments to kind of learn about photosynthesis and cellular respiration and how the plant works. Okay. And so in the end, our 5th lesson was an open inquiry, where the students were able to choose what they wanted to learn about photosynthesis and cellular respiration, and they designed their own experiment and carried it out and analyzed the data and came to conclusions. So I have a couple examples on the screen of different teams, what they chose. This team chose to investigate color of light and photosynthesis, and you can see how their interactions with their science mentor. So each class, as they move through this project, they would write about it to their mentor. Their mentor would then write back and ask them questions to kind of encourage them and support them as they move through the project. Okay. Another group tested different types of plants, okay, in their investigation. Okay. And I'm very happy to have a team with me from our class. This team, all the students participated and completed the project, and this team was nominated by one of our science liaisons that was part of the planting science team for a STAR project nomination. So what that is that out of all the teachers in the country that participated in this research project, they all carried out the same thing, and their students did projects as well. And our team was nominated as a STAR project out of all these other ones. And we found out last Friday that they won the STAR Project Award. So they do get recognition and a prize. And they will be featured on the Planting Science site as a STAR project for this module. So I'm happy to invite up Ryan Bellick, Justin Alvarado Rivera, Brooke Hutchinson, and Amelia Peroni. And I'm going to have them talk about their project, which is displayed on the screen behind you.
Hello. So as you know, there were many different experiments that we did in this module, and our last one was open-ended. So in our past experiments, we ended up looking at the pH of the solution that the leaves were in to see if oxygen was released during photosynthesis, which is how we found out that it was. And that brought up the question that if the pH of the solution that the leaf is in changes, would the rate of photosynthesis change as well? We believe that if we lower or bring the pH up of the solution, the rate of photosynthesis would decrease because the pH would impact the hydrogen ion gradient in the thylakoid of the leaf cell, which would then cause the electron transport chain and ATP synthase to slow down, which would also slow down the rate of photosynthesis.
To do this experiment, we started with 3 cups, one with a high pH by adding sodium hydroxide and baking soda, one with low pH by adding sulfuric acid and baking soda, and one with a neutral pH by adding just baking soda. We then had 3 cups. We put leaves in a syringe with those solutions. We then vacuumed out all the air so that the leaves were filled with those solutions. We then put them back into the containers with the solution and put them under light to see how they reacted to the different pHs.
In the experiment, we saw the results that photosynthesis has an optimal pH of 7. So when the pH increased or decreased, the rate of photosynthesis lowered because it wasn't the optimal pH. So in conclusion, we found that the neutral pH solution had the highest rate of photosynthesis.
Good evening. My name is Justin Alvarado. He's senior. Oh, I did that. Okay. So for our planting science project, we had a mentor, as Ms. Shawn explained, and our mentor was named Dr. Hay. He acquired his plant science, nerdy stuff from his PhD from Cornell University, a great school. But the way our group would communicate with Dr. Hay, as you can see in the presentation behind you or at your paper, is that we would give him updates during our research project. And he would ask us questions, and we would respond to his questions, giving him updates of what we thought was important for him to know and for him to help us. A way we communicated with Dr. Hay was explaining our research, our data results, and also ending off with the joke. As you can see, we think we need to build a good relationship with our mentor. So we ended off with a joke every time, and he would respond with a joke as well. I would like to thank Ms. Shawn and Dr. Hall for letting us experience this planting science project, which is lovely because if we didn't experience this, I think we would be lacking an opportunity of learning photosynthesis and what a curriculum is going to be about. And I would like to thank you guys as well for approving this last year. Even I just found that out like 30 seconds ago, but I'd like to thank you guys. But as I said before, as I ended my updates, or as we ended our updates with Dr. Hay with the joke, I'd like to end the board, with the joke as well. And what did the father buffalo say to his son? Bye, son.
I did steal that tick joke from my kids and harass them with it.
Do you have the clicker? Clicker? Hi, everybody. My name is Jessica Doyle, and I'm one of the biomedical sciences teachers here at Central. I've had the distinct pleasure of working on the curriculum with this group and teaching the current class that's in year 3. I taught them their first year. That first year, we talked a lot about public health. And so as they came up into the current course, their year 3, I was really trying to make the conversation that we were having more relevant to them. So I came around to our nervous system unit, and we've been doing lessons on neurotransmitters and how neurons communicate with each other. And typically what I've done in the past is I have done this lesson by looking at addiction and drugs. But I sat down with Mr. Hall, and we were actually getting ready to do one of my observations. It was my planned observation, and I said to him, I was like, listen, I really want to do something that's different. I want to make this a lot more relevant. Here's my idea. I was thinking about taking this from a perspective of looking at how cell phone addiction and social media tends to have an impact on dopamine release. There's been a lot of conversation about this over the course of the past few years. Nothing totally conclusive, so it seemed to be a conversation point, something that we could talk about. So I started the lesson this time around with a technology tool called Mentimeter. And I had the kids, I developed this question as kind of like a where are you starting from? And I asked them, is technology addictive? And if you look at the image, you know, it's interesting. It's a very interactive technology. And all 18 kids sitting in the class that day all kind of put their bubbles floating over to yes, yes it is. There was no no's, there was no maybes. But I wanted them to kind of sit through this lesson and think about and reflect on their own personal behaviors. So I designed an experiment, and I made them my guinea pigs, and I asked them to kind of think about what they were doing as they were doing it. And in the lesson, as we were talking about neurotransmitters, I had prompted them with questions first, like what are your feel-good neurotransmitters? We had already talked about this. What are the things that are positive about social media and cell phone use? What are the drawbacks or negative factors to cell phone use and social media? And then I had them I designed an experiment where I had them kind of take their cell phones and put it in front of them, and I asked them to just leave it there while I showed them 3 lengthy TED Talk videos about dopamine and cell phone use, which wasn't the most engaging videos, but that was totally intentional. So as they watched this, I asked them every time they got the urge to pick up their cell phone, they needed to reflectively journal about it, put a tick mark in, write down their emotions, how are they feeling in that moment. And so they did this over the course of about 20 minutes. And as I sat there, I was watching all of the different reactions in the classroom, and I had some students on both ends of the spectrum. Some students who were like, tick mark, tick mark, tick mark, tick mark, and journaling what they were feeling. And then I had other students who were like, normally I'm okay, but now that you told me I can't do it, I really want to, So we had a conversation about that. And I asked them after we were all done with it, what are the most compelling arguments or statistics that the videos that we watched provided? Some of them couldn't even tell me because they were too busy thinking about how they were feeling about not being able to pick up their cell phones. I asked what they disagreed with. I asked how much control they think they have over their smartphones and their cell phone use. And I also asked them to kind of think about it back from year 1 when we talked about community health and public health and epidemics. From that public health perspective, it was more of a rhetorical question, but whose responsibility is it to manage personal cell phone use? And I used the Mentimeter to have them kind of think about, where that responsibility lies. If you also look at the slide, the last question I asked them was part of their reflection, which was how much time do you spend on your cell phone during an average day? And of my class of 18, 9 of them said over 5 hours a day. So that was kind of part of the reflective telling, and I wanted them to kind of think about it, and we talked about it again the following class as far as, what the dopamine actions are and how this has an impact on them. It was a really interesting lesson. I've got 3 students with me today. I've got Olivia Giaffre, Sienna DiPaolo, and Anna Gabriella Rittman here to kind of discuss their experiences with you.
So I couldn't really tell you what the videos were about, except the last one. I remember the guy talking was saying, I remember one thing, and he was just like, I don't have social media, and I was like, I don't know how. I mean, I live on social media. I have 6 hours of screen time a day, so I'm spending that on social media, and I had 5 or 6 ticks anytime I wanted to pick up my phone. I ended up putting on my Apple Watch and just looking at every single time I got a notification. So I mean, when you tell someone not to do something, they're gonna want to do it even more. So I don't know, it was eye-opening. Yeah.
Hi, everyone. Yes, this experiment was definitely eye-opening. I do not like the fact that I'm part of that 5+ hour group, but the experiment was fun because I put my phone down, but during the second video, it was very long and very boring. And I resorted to other options like fidgeting with my hands or sleeping. My attention span could not handle that video. But writing down the ticks helped catch myself. And this experiment helped me to realize doing other things is better than being addicted to my phone. So I've tried to catch myself not going on my phone and doing other things to keep myself occupied.
Hi, I'm Anna, and it was very eye-opening, I would agree. I remember that as soon as Mrs. Doyle told us that we couldn't go on our phones, I immediately wanted to. So I was one of those people that said I was fine until you said I couldn't. And I realized it was because I had my phone as kind of a safety net. And especially during that second video, my eyes started to close a little bit. I won't lie. His monotone voice definitely put me to sleep a little bit. And it made me think about how, because we're on our phone so much on things like Instagram Reels or TikTok or YouTube Shorts that are such short videos, which Mrs. Doyle pointed out in class, it actually shortens our attention span. And so it made me think about all the negative long-term effects that technology can have on us.
Thank you, girls. All right, thank you so much.
Okay, so that is a number of experiences. The other thing that was interesting as an observer in that classroom that didn't come up was the discussions about not just do we think technology is addictive, but why, right? How do you substantiate that claim with this idea of, and this new learning they had about neurotransmitters? And the sophistication of those conversations was really impressive. So just to highlight that as well. So there's a little snapshot into our efforts at personalizing learning, whether it be open inquiry, whether it be students participating in an experiment about something that they clearly care a whole lot about, like their cell phones, or even trying to understand how the metric system relates to their lives as they take a trip down to Dunkin' Donuts and calculate, how much sugar is in the snack that they're about to have while they draw the chemical structure of caffeine. Like, those kinds of things are really cool. Thank you.